Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic start to your week and a great Tuesday so far. Gonna be a little bit of a quicker episode. We're gonna just do strictly Q&A today. So we'll take some questions from the live chat. Also have a bunch of questions from Instagram, mainly because the check engine light is on in my car, so I gotta take that to the shop. It's gonna be happened once before, and the O2 sensor was basically just dirty, so they cleaned it off and then told me, like, I don't think it's going bad, but it might be going bad, so we just gotta get that replaced. So quick and easy, but just gotta get it there in an hour, and I have a little bit of work to do before that. So gonna be a fun show today. Reminder, if you're watching this, we are going live. We'll have a Whatnot stream going on at 12 p.m. today. We're going over at the warehouse, so that's gonna be a blast. But other stuff to keep you up to date as we wait for some people to roll in. Releases this week, we have the Isaac Robinson Orbit Peak dropping. These look sick. The Peak's a really cool new mold from Latitude 64. So I believe they're in their like Royal Sense or whatever the baseline plastic in their orbit. So they look great. Calvin Destroyers and the Jessica Weiss Strike are dropping this week. I do believe the OTB Open MVP discs are the pre-orders are going to start shipping. Clash, we have a general restock. We're also dropping a new stamp this weekend, which is the Foundation Modern stamp. I have it on a Halo Destroyer right here. But these are dropping this weekend. Halo Destroyers and I think a few other molds as well, but they look really clean. We also have some, and these are on Innova, or sorry, there's a Halo Wraith. I thought I grabbed a Halo Destroyer. I grabbed a Wraith. Whoops. We also have some Build Your Game stamped Discraft. So bringing back a stamp that was only in mystery boxes. And the text deal this week is a really cool text deal. I'm not going to fully spoil it, but if you haven't joined the text deal yet, you can head over to our Instagram, Foundation Disc Golf's Instagram, and just DM us the word deals, and we will reply with how you sign up for our text deals. But you get a new deal every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Straight to your phone. So if that's something you're interested in, check that out. But these Friday, very fun stamp. Love how this stamp turned out. I love it on merch, but I really love it on discs. And apparently I'm a Wraith guy now. I really thought I grabbed Destroyer, grabbed Wraith. I think we have them on both. Maybe we only have them on Wraiths. Maybe I'm just wrong. Could be. But like I said, gonna be a little bit of a more brief episode. So let's go ahead and get into the questions. If you didn't already, you can submit them on. Well, you can't now, but you could have submitted them on Instagram. That's where I ask each and every week. And then also I'll be taking questions from the live chat as we get into the show a little bit more. So let me scroll down to the beginning of these. Well, first off, let me just talk through this because there's several questions about my half marathon. So there's a bunch of several people ask basically just how was it, general questions around more specific things. So I will just briefly talk about it because that way we can just talk about it once and not answer a bunch of questions, if that makes sense. So that way you don't have to hear about it all episode if I go through all the questions. So overall, half marathon went great. I ran the Flying Pirate half marathon down at the Outer Banks, completed it in 1 hour and actually I have my time over here. 1 hour, 52 minutes, and 33 seconds. My goal was a sub 2 hour, so blew that out the water. Averaged like an 8:30 some pace, which was way faster than I intended. I went out at like an 8:55, 8:50-ish, which was a little faster, but I was feeling good, so I just held that for the first 5 miles. And then basically the group, it wasn't a super busy race. There's like 300 some runners, and so there was basically the group behind me were people right at 2 hour pace. And then there was a group in front of me that was holding like 8:30s, and so they were getting farther and farther away from me. And then I was legitimately the only person in between. Like there was no one near me, and I did not like that because basically what it left was like they would turn a corner, and I would have a few hundred feet till I hit that corner, and then the people behind me were like maybe 100, 200 feet behind me, like 20, 30 seconds behind me at this point in the race, maybe more. And so, excuse me. So there were like sections during that like mile 3, 4, 5, where I was basically running by myself, which in a race I just don't really like, because I like being pushed by the people around me. And so I was feeling great at mile 5, and I made the decision I'm going to up my pace to catch this group in front of me. And so then I started pushing to 8:30s at that point in mile 5. And I held pretty close to an 8:30 roughly until mile 10. And so I caught up to that group and just ran with that group. Held that till mile 10 because they also slowly started pushing their pace, which was great. And then at mile 10, I just started picking the person in front of me, and I was just racing them. And so I would just run, try to catch them, pass them, pick the next person, pick them off, pick the next person, and I wasn't looking at my watch. I wasn't worried about anything. My legs felt great. Really the whole race. I never even really dealt with fatigue, which was awesome. I mean, it was hard. Like my 13th mile was like a 7:50 pace, 7:52. And like that mile was hard, but it wasn't like, at no point did I think like, man, I need to slow down. Again, I wasn't looking at my watch, so for all I knew, I was running a 6-minute pace. I had no idea what I was running. All I was worried about was I was looking at the person in front of me, passing them, looking at the person in front of them, passing them, and I just did that all the way in, and it was great. So really, really stoked with that run. The weather was great. The course was awesome, relatively flat, a few hills around the midpoint, but that was it. And yeah, super proud of my time. This is like, I think if I look back at all of my runs, all of my races, this is the race I'm most proud of, mainly because I feel like completing a marathon is a huge accomplishment. But I was never super proud of, I did one in like 4 hours and 45 minutes. I did the second in like 4.5 hours. And I just am not super proud of those times. I'm super proud of the accomplishment of finishing. I'm not super proud of the times. Whereas like an hour and 52-minute half, I'm really proud of that time. So this is probably the race I'm most proud of. I'm also really proud. This was the first race that I had a plan. I stuck to / surpassed the plan, and didn't have any like cramps, didn't have any like I just ran. It was one of the best runs I've ever had in my life. So I just ran it well. This was one of the first races. I think the 10 miler was like this too. The 10 miler I treated almost as a training run, so I didn't push myself at all. This run, I felt like I really pushed myself, right? Where like if I would have pushed myself a little more, I would have been in pain. I probably could have went a little faster, but it was like right at that threshold where it was just a great run. So stoked about it. Obviously y'all don't come here just for running, but there were several questions about it. So that way, if you ask one of those, hopefully that answered that question. Tanner Davis, I was wondering if I would even attempt to answer this because he said, what is your biggest accomplishment? And that's a really deep question in a lot of ways because, like, obviously I just went through running. I've had, like, accomplishments there. I've had, Foundation has hit several milestones. And I am a goal-oriented person, but I also, like, I love the nitty-gritty, the, like, work towards a goal is my favorite part. Like, one of my least favorite weeks is the week after race week, or the week after you hit a big goal, just because, like, you kind of go into limbo of, I got to find my next thing to work towards, and you just kind of are in this, like, sustain space. So what is my biggest accomplishment? I have no clue. I've done things I'm proud of, obviously. A lot with Foundation, a lot personally, spiritually, running. I really want to give an answer. I have a few accomplishments that stick out to me as moments I felt most, like, proud of what we have accomplished. I think one that comes to mind is when Foundation hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. That was a really big one. Really proud of our team and how, much work we put in to get there. I think we just crossed 130,000 now. But, I was proud of that. One of the most, like, personally proud I've ever felt was crossing the finish line of my first marathon in Disney, because that was like 6 months of work that led to that. I've had so many moments that, as a parent, I felt like are really big accomplishments, but I feel like a lot of those big parental accomplishments are ahead of me. But I think that, just I don't know. I really like the nitty gritty. I think a lot of like I like seeing results of small things pay off. Like I like when we're trying to teach Lucas something, my son, and eventually he just like right now we have been really trying to be consistent with, you know, getting him, teaching him why it's important to listen to mommy and daddy and why it's important to stay close to the cart when we're in stores and why it's important to hold our hands in the parking lot and help him understand that it's not, you're not just listening to us just to listen to us, but here's the reasons why. And he's 2.5, so that's a very hard thing to get, but there's a lot of like, and it's a pretty big accomplishment when you go, like last night we went to Aldi, the grocery store, and we were supposed to just kind of go in and out of there quick. And so I sat in the back seat next to him and I said, hey buddy, I need you to understand, we are trying to be in and out of the store really quick. So you're going to be in the cart. I need you just to sit in the cart and listen to us. Can you do that for me? And he was like, uh-huh. And sure enough, he did phenomenal. And like, you know, moments like that, those are big accomplishments. So I don't know. I wanted to give it an answer, but I don't think I have one. Sorry. Quick one. John Bro said, do you plan to go back to play North Cove once it's open again? Yeah, I loved North Cove. Excited to see what gets rebuilt on that property. So, Jaron says, does someone at Foundation design custom stamps or does the manufacturer help? So manufacturers have basically never designed a Foundation stamp. We've had help on like some collab ones, like the Dark Horse Ace-a-thon. Nope, that's not even true. That was us. So if you go way back, I was the designer for all of our stamps. And then as times progressed, we now have a team of, there's 3 different freelance designers that we work with, and we give them stamps based on what I perceive as their strengths. So we have like one guy that's really good at the like in-depth illustration, you know, that type stuff. We have one guy that's very good at like this type, you know, word. He does all of our apparel, word marks, that type stuff. We have a guy for that, and then we have a guy who kind of is like a more of a hybrid. I think he does good illustration, but he's a little bit better at working text into the illustration than the guy who does strict illustration. So we kind of work with each of those and give them projects based on their strengths. So manufacturers, I don't think have ever done a stamp for us. So we do them, but it's not people in-house. We have designers that we work with. So Zoracle on YouTube said, do you guys play much disc golf without a camera? Just go out and play. Just curious how many hours you record if you still have motivation to play as well. Modern day, no. I don't really play really ever without a camera. I'll take my son out. Like I just took him out a week or 2 ago and we played around. And it's not because I don't want to. It's more just I get to play disc golf at work. We typically film 3 to 4 days a week. So I get to play a lot of disc golf throughout the week. And then when I go home, my wife isn't super into disc golf. She loves watching it, but she doesn't really like want to go out and play it all the time. And so as my son gets older, I think I definitely will more. But when I get home, it's a lot more of like other hobbies, just spending time with family, stuff like that. So I don't get to play a ton. Before pre-kids, I played a decent bit more. You know, we had a weekly I went to every week. We ran weeklies back then. I played tournaments still. But now as a father, I don't really play much without camera, which is, it's not because I don't want to. It's more just I get to scratch my disc golf itch with my job. And thankfully it hasn't felt like a job more weeks than not. Like it every once in a while, you know, a job's a job, but 95% of the time I'm excited to go play disc golf and film videos. And so because of that, I don't really have a huge like desire when I get home of like, oh, I got to go out and play because I get to play so much. So yeah, don't really, pretty much if I'm throwing a disc, it's on camera in some way, shape or form nowadays. Adam also on YouTube said, are you able to think about anything else during a marathon, or does keeping pace and all the other race stuff keep the bulk of your attention? So during both of my actual marathons, I think about any number of things. I just let my mind wander. The first one I listened to like an entire audiobook while I was out there. The second one I listened to music, but just kind of let it tune out. During true races like a 5K or the 10 miler, this half marathon where they're a little bit shorter, it's more about racing. So like this race, I had music in my ears, but I just kind of tuned it out. But all I was focused on was keeping pace and then eventually like picking off people in front of me. And just kind of, that's all. My mind didn't really think about anything, to be honest with you, which was nice. So marathons, yeah, you're out there for me 4+ hours, 4.5 hours. And so, yeah, I just let my mind wander because I'm trying to keep a pace, but I'm not so focused on a race. I'm just focused on like how my body feels, making sure I'm keeping an easy effort because I have to make it 26.2 miles versus the half marathon. I'm a lot more focused on a pace because I know my legs can make it. I'm not worried about that. So, yeah. Aaron Miller asks what my favorite Bible verse is. My favorite Bible verse has always been Colossians 3:23. And whatsoever you do it heartily to the Lord and not unto men. That's just always been in when I went to the school I went to, middle school, high school, was on our gym wall, up above like where you like walked out. And so I saw it at practice every day, and it was always just a good reminder. And so it's always just been my life verse. So I think it's always will be my favorite Bible verse. Jacob said, in regards to disc golf, who do you wish to collab with for a round/video? So I'm assuming he's talking like it's got to be a disc golfer, not who would I want to play disc golf with for a round or a video, because those obviously are two different things. Because obviously, if you're gonna pick someone to play around a disc golf with for a video, you're gonna pick just a massive YouTuber because then the eyeballs on the sport would be huge. But within disc golf, I'll go within disc golf that we haven't filmed with, because obviously Simon's a great pick, Paul's a great pick. We love filming with Gannon and Isaac and Ezra and all of them, Alden, Gavin. But someone we haven't filmed with that I think would be really fun to film with, I'm gonna go Kristen. I think Kristen would be a blast to film with. Mainly I just think I think the video would perform well. And I also think it would be fun to watch her beat up on Trevor and I. Because I think that would just be a fun overall video. We tried to get something to happen at Worlds, but I forget, it just never really worked out. But I would love to get a video with Kristen. To be honest with you, I feel like she doesn't do much YouTube in general, so it might just be a thing where she just doesn't like content creation, but that would be a blast. I've been working hard on pronouncing your last name right. It was Lot, that's what everyone says. I then heard it was Let, so I switched to Let, and now I'm understanding it's Lat. So somewhere in there, I think it's Lat. And so maybe once I get her name right, then we can actually have a round together. But we'll see. I think that would be a blast. Let's see. Jacob said, most underrated disc golf brand / disc. Oh, boy. You know, I think that Legacy discs is pretty underrated, mainly because you just never hear people throwing them, and they make very good stuff. I don't think my most underrated disc is going to come from them, because I think underrated disc can come from anyone. But I think Legacy is probably the most underrated manufacturer. And the most underrated disc, it's a great question. I'll just stick with Legacy. I'll go with the Recluse from Legacy. Adam said maybe listen to her saying her name in an interview. Yes. So how I got to Let was that / at Music City, someone walked up and asked her. But obviously, I have a much different accent than she does, being a Southerner. And so then Let, I think it was like basically her saying Lat is how I would say it with her accent leads to Let. But then I had I believe he was actually Finnish person messaged me, but basically told me, like, you're butchering it. Like, that's not how you say it. So, I don't know. I know that if you say Kristen Lott, it's at least accepted, you know, in the general disc golf world, because that's what the commentators say. But I don't know, man. I'm trying. Jonah says, any tips for beginner distance runners? That's from Instagram. So I think the biggest tip, and I've talked about this a bunch on here before, I've told a bunch of people this, is when you first start, especially if you're training for distance, but when you first start running in general, you gotta run way easier than you think you do. Because the most important thing in running, and I'm speaking from someone who didn't do this, and once I started doing this, realized how much faster you progress. Most important thing in running is your aerobic base. So basically that sets you up for success everywhere else, because it's called zone 2 running, but essentially the basic formula that's scientifically close to accurate but not really is you take it's called a math 180, but basically you take 180 minus your age. That gives you your max aerobic effort. So that's your heart rate that you got to average below. So for me currently that would be 153. But nowadays I've ran enough that I can use data to figure out what my actual zone 2 is. And now my zone 2, I can get closer to 160 and still be in zone 2. But when you're first starting, that gives you a good range of, like, I need to keep my heart rate below this. And then as your heart health improves, you'll be able to run at a faster and faster and faster pace at that easy effort. And what that does that I didn't understand previously is it also then increases how long you can hold harder efforts. So, for instance, my heart rate during my half marathon, I just ran average like 170 to 173, somewhere in that range. I forget exactly what it was, but it was over 170. And I didn't realize that, like, for me, that was a pretty comfortable. Like, it was a little tough, but I was never like sucking wind. I didn't feel like it was just a very comfortable effort to hold. But for newer runners, that's the heart rate where you feel like out of breath and whatever, but I'm able to hold that for longer because I'm able to hold that for longer because I've trained for years. So building your aerobic base. And then once you have a aerobic base built, I think starting off, just focus on easy runs. Mix in speed work if you're bored, but don't do it more than 1 day a week, speed work. But build your aerobic base, and then you can start pushing speed work once you have a good aerobic base built. And that will just set you up for success, where then you can push into higher effort zones and be A, running way faster, and B, holding it way longer. Tanner asked, this is on YouTube, can you build aerobic base on elliptical? Yeah. So aerobic base is purely heart health. So you can build an aerobic base biking, running, swimming, whatever. The only thing that won't translate is on elliptical, it might translate, but your aerobic base, like, you'll be able to still have a higher level of effort, but if you aren't building it while running, then running might still push you into a high level of effort, if that makes sense. So if you build it running, then it'll directly correlate to your pace. If you build it biking or something, it will more indirectly correlate to your pace. So your legs will still get stronger. If you build it swimming, like, your overall heart health will improve. So you'll be able to have a higher effort, but that higher effort might not necessarily mean fast running, because your leg muscles might have to exert more for you to run a 10-minute pace than if you just trained at a 12-minute pace, if that makes sense. So I don't know if I described that right, but yes, you can build aerobically, heart-wise, you can build your aerobic base doing any type of cardio. It just might not directly translate and pay off in running if you're not building it running. It's also great if you are building it running to do outside exercises to build other areas of your leg for injury prevention, and also, like, biking's just less stress on your body. So yes, yeah. Hashtag Jeff Bell said, how did you find passion to push you to push your career, to push you to your career? I don't know exactly what that is worded to say, but I think that, and this comes from there's a lot of books that talk about this. I don't think I actually have it here, but Find Your Why is a great one with Simon Sinek. But a lot of like your passion and motivation to do something comes from why you do it. Like, what is your core motivating thing? So for me as a Christian, at the core of a lot of what I do and how I do them is who I'm doing it for. Heck, that's why Colossians 3:23 is my life verse. But then also as a father and a husband, there's certain times where that is my principal motivator for X, Y, and Z. As a business owner and, leader within that, there's a lot of times where that can be my why. And so having a good why, having a good reason makes tasks that might be monotonous, you could get burnt out. You're able to rely back on why you're doing it, and then that is what drives me, at least. And I think that most people are wired that way, where when you can remember why, it makes the action a lot easier to do and to handle. So that's where I find it, is basically each task has a different, not each task, but like different areas of my life have a different why. And if the why is strong enough, because there's also, like, to be honest with you, this race, my why I ran this race was because I was running it. My brother-in-law wanted to run a half marathon, and we chose this one, and then he got injured and couldn't run it. And so my prep for this half marathon was pretty bad, because I didn't have motivation to do the like long speed work and because like I wasn't running this race for me. This wasn't one that I like put on the calendar and circled and like was really fixated on. But I basically started training shortly after my full marathon in November. So I was able to just like maintain my cardio fitness. So I could have pushed it a lot faster if I would have like focused on it. But that was a good example of like my why wasn't super strong for this race. So therefore my training wasn't super strong. Whereas my first marathon, my why was really strong. And so therefore my training was great, in my opinion. Got the flu the week before, made it through everything out the window, but you can't control that. You control what you can control. So S. Burke says, any chance we'll see you compete in a tournament this year? Any chance? Sure. Likely, no. Mainly because, and I don't know if you've ever felt this, but I feel it a lot with disc golf, where I was a very competitive disc golfer in the sense of like competition was all that drove me when I first got into the sport. So 2015, 2016, I like got into the sport, immediately started getting better, immediately started playing tournaments, went to college, played disc golf in college, and college disc golf was my focus. Excuse me. So during that time, I got as good at disc golf as I've ever really been in my college years. And so I was much more consistent back then. And so what happens in tournaments is I get really frustrated because day to day, like monthly matches are probably the most competitive thing I do. And that's just, I'm trying to beat Trevor. And so we are very similar skill wise. So I don't have to go out and play incredible disc golf for our current skill level to beat each other. Like it takes just good for us to beat each other. Whereas if I go and play MPO locally, it's going to take far beyond what I'm currently capable of to compete. But my expectation is still in the mindset of like, I want to compete to win if I'm showing up. And so it just creates a very frustrating environment. And where I'm at currently sucks the fun out of disc golf. So I just don't really have a big desire to play tournaments. But I'm not going to say 0%, because like if there was a flex start or something and everyone was playing and we're just going out to have a good time, sure, that'd be a blast. Because I loved the competitive side of disc golf, but I just don't have time to commit to being as good as my mind would think I was when I was out there playing. So that's the tough part. T-Berg 1129 asked what degree I got in college. So I am actually a graphic design major. I have a bachelor's of fine arts degree in graphic design. So that was my degree. Let me see if there's any. Oh, Rolling Game says, are we currently filming any new courses? So There will be one more course that comes out soon. Funny enough, we filmed it with, I believe it was a Brody course. We filmed it and the mic died during it and we didn't catch it while we were filming it, which sucks. So we'll have to refilm that one. The goal is kind of a new course every quarter or so. But again, the subscription model is more for, people to be able to subscribe and watch all the courses at their own pace over the span of 3 months, 4 months, 2 months, whatever that may be, and then hop off of the subscription, and less about subscribe indefinitely because it's going to be the biggest bang for your buck where we're releasing new stuff. Like, that's our Patreon. So our Patreon is we're dropping new stuff every week. We have podcasts. We have there's a bunch of stuff going on there. That's that subscription model. The subscription model for the courses is this is a more affordable way for you to work at your own pace through all the courses. So there will be new courses that come out, but I don't want that to be a confusing thing for people where you get stuck in the subscription just for the idea of being in the subscription. So, okay, I'm going to try to start wrapping this up because I got to get to the car dealership here soon. Rolling Games also said Bedanza's moving in November. Y'all trying to pitch him to go to Lynchburg. I didn't know he was moving. I think Lynchburg's a great place to live, but I've had plenty of friends come from bigger cities, either leave Lynchburg, go to big cities, come back to Lynchburg, or come from big cities to Lynchburg, and it's just a different lifestyle. We're a relatively small town. We got everything you need, but we don't have excess. So if you're someone who, and I don't know if this is true of Bedanza, I'm just saying for people who live in a little bit of bigger areas, a lot of times this is the problem of Lynchburg is if you come here, you're going to be able to visit every coffee shop within the first few weeks. You're going to be able to visit every fancy new restaurant. So if you're someone who wants to go out every night to a new restaurant or go to a new coffee shop each day and whatever, this isn't really the place. But for someone like me and for our family where I'm a very routine guy, I like having my coffee shop. I have 2 or 3 restaurants that are my places. I have my hobbies I like to do, and I don't need a lot of variety. I also don't need to I'm fine with if I want to buy a new pair of Lululemon shorts, I'm fine buying them online. I don't shop there enough that I need an in-person store. So for me, Lynchburg's a perfect city. It's slow, it's not super busy. There's enough, we got a Target, we got Walmart. You're an hour away from Charlottesville if you want to go to fancy shops. We got a nice mall. We got all the chain restaurants I want, Chick-fil-A. And then we got everything you kind of want to do, and then drive an hour either direction. 1 hour takes you to the mountains and the lake. 1 hour takes you into a city. That's what I like. So that's perfect. So for me, Lynchburg's the perfect area, but I understand that that's not everyone doesn't like living that way. So I would, if he was thinking about Lynchburg, obviously I would give it a big sales pitch. But I do think that, it's not a small town living's not for everyone, which makes perfect sense. It's not meant to be for everyone, just like city living's not for everyone. So yeah. Okay, let's see. Alex Stovall said, what point will Foundation have a bigger advertising presence on the Pro Tour / Go Throw Tour? I think 2 things would have to happen. One, our marketing budget just has to get bigger. I think that we're in a unique spot because we are able to, we spend basically our marketing budget, quote unquote, on the salary for our media team. So because we are able to reach so many people with organic content. So the organic content's not really free advertising because we pay people to create it. We pay the personalities, the editors, so on and so forth. So that's kind of our marketing budget in a way. So where other companies don't have that team, they can basically spend money on the Pro Tour, on the Go Throw Tour, so on and so forth. So for us, the 2 things that would have to happen is our marketing budget would have to get bigger and bigger because right now we spend a little bit on Facebook and Google ads, we sponsor tournaments in, local and not local, but like small C tier type stuff, grassroots. That's more or less about the ROI, more about we just want to support the people who are running the tournaments and support the disc golf scene. So we do that because that's also, we're talking $50 for a T sign sponsorship or send some people some discs for a CTP type of a thing. We're not talking about 10 grand for a Pro Tour sponsorship, right? So one thing that would have to happen is our marketing budget get big enough that we don't want to spend any more on Facebook. We don't want to sponsor any more YouTubers or local tournaments, and we're ready to move on to just more what I call white noise marketing. And the secondary thing that would have to happen, which the Go Throw Tour might be here, I haven't looked into sponsoring that much, but for the Pro Tour, the ROI would just have to get where it makes more sense for us. Especially, like I said, as someone who doesn't have a giant marketing budget because we spend so much on creating content, the dollars we put in, we got to get right back out, and the Pro Tour isn't the place for that. So if you're a newer business, nothing against the Pro Tour. Obviously, I want them to succeed, and I want people's, advertising dollars is how they make a living and how they succeed. So it's very, very important for the sport. But if you're a newer company, it's not sustainable for you or for the Pro Tour for you to be spending your entire marketing budget there. The Pro Tour exists, in my opinion. The advertising for the Pro Tour exists for, I'm filling all of these buckets already, and I'm adding this one more to it. So it's like people are already seeing me on Facebook. They already are seeing content I'm putting out. And this is just one more reminder that Bic Pins exists, right? But if I'm just created Bic Pins and I'm just trying to get it in front of disc golfers, I'm going to just use 10 grand again. I'm going to just use 10 grand again as the example. If I have a $10,000 marketing budget, I am going to be able to hit people, because if you hit this is the tough part of marketing, is if you touch someone once, if you hit them once, very rarely is that one touch point convert, because that is basically like, oh, I now know that exists. That's it. So that would be like your basically buddy just once saying something like, oh yeah, if I got a new coffee mug, and that's it. It's not until you now hear your buddy talk about the coffee mug again, and then you see your buddy drinking out of the coffee mug, that thing's pretty sick. And then oh yeah, let me show you more about it. By like fourth or fifth or sixth time, you then are ready to convert. So if you only have 10 grand as Bic and you're trying to let people know my pen exists, spending all 10 grand on one spot, one advertising place is not the best idea. And that's where I think a lot of disc golf companies struggle to get going, is that's what they do. They just see like, oh, and there is something validating about your product being on the Pro Tour. So I don't want to, take that away. Because there is something validating of like, that does create initial trust, because people see it, they trust the Pro Tour, they see your product there, that creates initial trust. But you'd be better off, in my opinion, spending the 10 grand spread across either Facebook ads / Google ads, or where I think a really big bang for your buck is going to be right now is on content creators. Honestly, if you're just getting into it and you don't, like 10 grand might be a crazy budget for you. You were like, I got $500 in product. Your best bet isn't us. It's not Jomez. It's not Simon. It's not Bedanza. Your best bet is the Instagram accounts with 5,000 to 10,000 followers, the YouTube channels with 3,000 subscribers that are getting a few thousand, because what you're gonna be able to do there is give them affiliate deals where it costs you nothing. Give them product deals where you just got to send them product, and you might pay them $100 or something like that, and you can spread that out really wide now, to where now you're hitting people 30 different times, and it's gonna feel like everyone's talking about this pen, everyone's using this pen. And then those sales is going to be a much bigger bang for your buck. So I don't know how I got on that rant, but hopefully it makes sense. But I did see, we got someone in the chat explaining how to say lot, Kristen Lot. The A is pretty distinctly sounding, so it's kind of hard if you don't have the actual pronunciation for it, since growing up. The closest would be trying to say latte, but removing the E. So lot. Is that not what we say? Commentators on tour do it pretty well, considering they have absolutely butchered Tatar. So saying lot pretty reasonably. So I'm going back to lot. Sticking with lot. It's what it seems to be. I don't think it's let or lot or lut. I think lat. Latte. lot. We're going there. I like that. All right. That's going to wrap up the coffee break this week. Appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Check out foundationdisc.com for a bunch of fun new releases this week. Going down over there. Don't forget to head over to Instagram and DM the word deals to Foundation Disc Golf if you want to get on the weekly text deals and get some pretty sick stuff this week and really every week. Every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern time, you get that text to your phone. So appreciate y'all tuning in, and I'll talk to you again next week.